Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, we are learning about the general awareness and basically we are discussing over the medieval history. Okay, like in Indian history, we have the three parts. First is the ancient history. Second one is the medieval history. And the third one is the modern history. Okay, so these are the three parts of the Indian history. Let me write down here. These are the three parts of the Indian history. Okay, and basically we are discussing about the medieval history. All right, means that one. We are discussing about the medieval history. All right, and in the medieval history, as I had told you in the previous lecture, we had three main topics basically to learn about. 1, 2 and 3. These topics are, first one is the Delhi Sultanate. Let me write down again. Delhi Sultanate. First topic. Second one was Mughal Empire. And the third one was Indian dynasties. Alright. These all are the part of medieval history. Got it? So basically, in the previous lecture, I had told you one thing. In order to understand them properly, we must require to understand them the grassroots level. Okay, which means from the Islamic world point of view. Islamic world point of view. And why I'm saying this? Because Delhi Sultanate and the Mughal Empire, they both are administered by the Muslim rulers who are the part of the Islamic world. Okay. Secondly, in Indian dynasties, we have several dynasties from the Hinduism and other religions, and several dynasties are basically from the Muslim community and religions. Okay. That's why, because the medieval part is basically held by the Muslim rulers. Okay, that's why it's become very, very important for us to learn about the Islamic world so that we could connect them proper. All right. So basically what we are doing, we are discussing about the Islamic world in perspective with the Indian medieval history. Right? And so far what we did, basically in the previous lecture, we had completed the origin of Islam. Okay. So basically whenever we talk about the Islamic world in reference to the medieval history of India, then basically we have to deal with these points. Okay. So the first point we had finished. Now we will begin with the social scenario. All right. So let's start. Okay. This is what we are required to learn here. All right. So basically, remember in the previous lecture, when we talk about the ancient Arabia, okay, it means the Arabic world, which is known as the Arabian Peninsula sometimes. Okay. That area was not controlled by a single community, but it was bifurcated and divided amongst the several groups of peoples who used to live in a tribes, and we call them as a kabilas. All right. So basically in the Islamic world, we find that word Zahiliya. Okay. Please pardon me for my pronunciation because I'm not so good at the Arabic. So might be I pronounce it wrong, but here it is written over here, so you can check it. Okay. So Zahiliya in Islam refers to the period and conditions in Arabia before the arrival of Islam, often translated as the age of ignorance. Okay, so basically, in the previous lecture, what we did, we learned about the person whose name was Prophet Muhammad. Prophet Muhammad. Okay, he was born in the ancient Arabia. Okay, in ancient Arabia, there was so many tribes who had their own deities. Okay, so what he did, he basically persuaded people to worship one God only, called Allah. Second, he formed the community of believers known as Ummah. Okay, and the third, he founded Muslim or Islamic religion. Okay, that all the things were done by the Prophet Muhammad. Got it? So basically, before all these changes, the time period in Arabia known as the Zahiliya. Okay, it means age of ignorance, means the age in which there was nothing to be done. Okay, everything would be done after the introduction of Islam, so that the things would be done in a proper manner. Okay, remember this thing. Thereafter, tribalism. Zahiliya era was characterized by a strong sense of tribalism, with Arabian society being divided into various tribes or clans, each with its own deity and allegiance. Remember, basically in the previous lecture, what we did, we had come to know about that there was no single authority or community in Arabia. No single authority or community in Arabia. Basically, they were living together only because of two things: economic interest, okay, and second was cultural reason. Okay, these were the two main things who get them binded together. Okay, apart from these two things, there was nothing that the people could live with each other. Okay, so that was because of the tribalism. People were divided into the tribes having their own identity and allegiance. Okay, and the people who are living in the same regions, but they do not have a sympathy and the brotherhood for the other ones. Okay, so that's why Zahiliya is basically refers to the time period of tribalism. Okay, when the people were more committed towards their tribe rather than to be committed for the society as a whole. Okay, thereafter comes the underdevelopment. Arabian society during this time was socially, economically, politically, and religiously underdeveloped. It lacked centralized governance and institution. Because remember, there was a wide area known as the Saudi, or you can say Arabic land. Okay, on that area there were so many people, so many tribes were living there. Okay, each of them have their own sphere, have their own resources, have their own identity, allegiance, deity, and whatsoever. Because of this, the area was not so developed, neither socially, economically, politically, nor religiously. Okay, because they were divided into a very small segmented groups known as the Kabilas. All right, and there was no centralized governance institutions, so that all the resources of that area could be merged together, and grow together. All right. So it was the underdevelopment phase. Okay. That why it is known as the age of ignorance. Got it? Thereafter, Bedouin dominance. Okay. Bedouin dominance. The dominant population consisted of Bedouin tribes who lived nomadically. They moved between arid and fertile regions in search of water and pasture for their livestock. Okay, so remember, when we talk about the social scenario of the ancient India, the name Bedouin comes in the picture, which means they were the dominant population, okay, who lived in the nomadic way. It means they do not settle themselves at a particular place, but they settle themselves to the places for a shorter duration and they used to move here and there. All right. So remember that thing. Thereafter, what we have? We have the widespread slavery. Okay. Slavery was prevalent during the Zahelia period. Many individuals were enslaved and the institutions of slavery played a significant role in the society's structure. All right. What happened during this time? Because remember, in the previous lecture also I had told you there were various tribes or kabilas. Okay. Some of them were strong. Some of them were weaker. All right. So what happened? Generally, the strong ones had dominated the weaker ones, and mainly they enslaved their people. All right. Because of this, that was the one of the reason that these marginalized tribal people got attracted to the newly formed Islamic world, because the Islamic world had their identity, had the power to face the challenges. All right. That was the main reason. Got it? So remember, before the introduction of the Islamic world in the Arabian plain, there was a slavery because the strong tribes oftenly dominated the weaker ones and established their control on them. All right. So this played a significant role in the society structure prior to the Islam, and you can say during the Zahelia period. All right. So then we have the limited trade. What does it mean? Basically, the trade was not well developed and economic activities were primarily based on agriculture herding and the limited local exchange. Why? Because that is what we called it. We called it ancient Saudi. Ancient Saudi Arabia. Okay. There were so many local tribes, okay, which had the distribution of resources into a very, very small segment of the population. Okay. Because of this, large number of resources got divided into the few number of usefulness. And this basically turned into the limited economic activities because the people do not have the sufficient resources. Secondly, agriculture herding and the limited local exchange was there because the society was basically dependent upon the nomadic nature. All right. And that area is basically the area of desert. Okay. So because of this also, these peoples do not get a chance to having a sufficient resources for their development. Okay, and even due to their segmentation into a small portion of the population, they were facing the difficulties in managing the society. Okay, and this was resulting into these things. All right. Then comes the raiding and looting. Okay. Tribal groups often engage in raiding and looting of neighboring communities. Conflict was common and the absence of a central authority contributed to this state of affairs. Basically, what happened? Remember, there were various tribes and the resources were distributed inefficiently or due to the mismanagement. All right. And there were two types of tribes: stronger tribes, then comes the weaker tribes. All right. So the stronger tribes, in order to fulfill their economical, political and social needs, social means to get the slaves so that the work could be done, political means to ensure that no one should attack on them, and economical means to capture the resources of the you can say defeated one. All right. These stronger tribes generally attacks on the weaker ones. Okay, and this action is always known as the raiding and looting. Okay, here raiding signifies significant attacking the population. Okay, whereas second one is looting. Looting here signifies the you can say robbing the possession of people. Okay, so remember these two words having different meaning. First, to attack the group of population. Okay, second, rob the or snatch or grab the possessions they had so that you could fill your social, economical and political needs. Okay, even sometimes the defeated soldiers and the people defeated soldiers and people were taken as a slaves. All right, so that's why there was a widespread of slavery. Okay, so remember, raiding and looting to the neighboring communities was very common, and because there was no central authority, so that this could not be handled efficiently. Okay, then comes the principle of might is right. Okay, with no overarching authority, the prevailing principle in Arabian society was that might is right. Tribal strength and power determined influence and control over resources. It means there was nothing like equitable resource distribution, because there was a system of raiding and looting. Okay, it means that the more you raid, the more you looted, you will get the wealth. Wealth and power is the only mean of ruling the ancient Arabia. Okay, so might is right means the one who is stronger is the one who is always right. Okay, so because there was no central authority, no common authority to deal with this kind of things, so the powerful tribes generally dominating the weaker ones. Okay, and because of this, tribal strength and power determine the influence and control over the resources. The more stronger you are, the more influence and control you have on the resources. Okay. Now, after the social scenario, we have the third point. Okay, like we had completed the social scenario, and now the third point is the change in society, which we are required to start. Okay, so now let's start it. This is the change in society. The first is establishment of political order in Medina. Medina means actually Prophet Muhammad was born in the city of Makkah. Okay, but in the previous lecture we had seen, because of his teaching, okay, and because of the anger of the powerful tribes, he has to leave the Makkah with his followers and he reached the Medina. Okay, and this event is basically known as Hijrah. Okay, and this is the beginning of Islamic calendar. All right, so it is the revision point of view. Prophet Muhammad was born in the city of Makkah. Because of his teachings and anger from the strong tribes, he had to left Makkah. Then he moved to Medina, and where this is known as the Hijrah, and it's the beginning of the Islamic calendar. All right. After reaching Medina, what he did, he established the political order. Okay, Muhammad established a political order in Medina, drawing from various sources. Okay, it means the order was comprehensive one. Why? Because of the drawings of various resources. It means not only one person was drawing the order, but he had took the help of various resources and persons as well. Okay, this order provided protection to his followers and resolved ongoing civil conflicts, like what was going in the ancient Arabia, like raiding and looting, establish your dominance, slavery, and all these things. These kind of things were banned under the political order in Medina. All right. Thereafter, expansion of the Ummah. Ummah was the community of believers. All right. Initially, the Ummah was a community of believers, means the people who supported and get themselves involved in the campaign of Muhammad in order to worship only one God called Allah and to be the part of unified society called the Islam. Okay, Muhammad expanded it to the other ones, means including polytheist and Jewish population of the Medina. Okay, remember, Jewish population and Christian population, Jewish and Christians, they were also lived in the tribes. They were also in the tribal population. As we had seen in the previous lecture, that however, the ancient Arabs were worshipping different gods or were living in a different segments called the Kabila. But they were well aware about the common God concept. How? Because of the presence of Jewish and Christian tribes. Okay, that was we had already done. All right. So remember, when the Muhammad was expanding his empire and the Islamic world, so he also included the Jewish population of Medina. All right, to be the part of Ummah. All of them came under the political leadership of Muhammad. It means those who will join the Ummah will now be the part of modern political order. All right. Thereafter, it's strengthening the faith. Muhammad strengthened the faith of his followers by introducing and refining rituals and ethical principles. Also, in the previous lectures, we had come to know that there was a insurance of salvation. Like I had told you, almost in every religion there is a insurance of the salvation. All right, like one day there will be the day of judgment, which is also known as Qayamat. Okay, and every religion promise that if you follow the particular religion and its principle in a appropriate manner, then on the day of judgment or the Qayamat, you will be exempted and the God will give you heaven and whatever you can call it. Okay, same thing was also promised to the people of Ummah, or you can say to the Muslims, by Prophet Muhammad, that if you follow the Islam in a proper manner, you will get the salvation till the end of the Qiyamah. Okay, so it is basically to strengthening the faith, all right, or to give the reason to the people why you should follow the Islam. Thereafter, we have the economic sustenance. The community relied on agricultural, trade, and the collection of alms called zakat for subsistence. Okay. However, about economy, we will learn in the upcoming lectures for economic and the political part. Till then, just remember this one. All right. Expenditure and rates. Muslims organize expenditure and rates Gaza against Makkan caravans and nearby oases. All right, because it was the only established way to have the resources and sustainability. These actions triggered reactions from the Makkans and strained relations with the Jewish community in Medina. Because in the previous lecture, I had already told you the Makkans, or you can say the wealthy Makkans were already not happy with the newly formed Islam. Why? Because the Islam was challenging their gods. Alright? And thereafter, under the political leadership of Prophet Muhammad, when they launched the attacks on the Makkan caravans and the nearby oases, the Makkans got really angry. Okay? And this also strained their relations with the Jewish community in the Medina. Alright? Thereafter, conquest of Makkah. Following a series of battles, Makkah was eventually conquered. Muhammad gained renown as both a religious preacher and the political leader. Okay, it means they launched a multiple attacks on the Makkah and eventually the Makkah falls down. And this established Prophet Muhammad not as a religious leader but as a political leader as well. Okay. Thereafter, emphasis on conversion. Muhammad emphasized conversion as the sole criterion for membership in the community. Like those people, marginalized or non-marginalized, who wanted to join the Ummah, who wanted to be the part of Islamic world, Prophet Muhammad said, if you want to do this, the only way is getting converted into the Islam. Alright, this is the only way. Administrative centers. Medina became the administrative capital of the emerging Islamic state. Makkah served as a religious center. Okay, so remember the two important cities. Medina and Makkah. Medina was a administrative capital. Makkah was the religious center. Okay, so remember this thing. The significance of Medina in the Islamic world was as the administrative capital, whereas the significance of Makkah was the religious center. All right. Now, purification of the Kaaba. The Kaaba was cleansed of idols. Muslims were directed to face this sacred shrine during their prayers. All right. It is basically lies at the Makkah. Okay, and Kaaba, basically it was cleansed of the idols of the ancient Arabians. All right. Thereafter, the unification of Arabia. Through these transformative efforts, Muhammad succeeded in unifying a significant portion of Arabia under a new faith, community and a state, which was earlier divided into a segmented group of population called the Kabilas. Alright, so basically students, with this we had finished the two scenarios, the social scenario and the changing society. Okay, so you can say so far we had completed these three parts. Okay, in the next lecture we will complete the politics and the economics part. Till then, just revise the facts and figures properly and keep yourself ready for the another lecture. Okay, with this note, let's end this lecture and thank you.